of the lack of all comfort. It is no hard thing to despise human comfort when divine is present. It is a great thing, yea, very great, to be able to bear the loss of both human and divine comfort, and for the love of God willingly to bear exile of heart, and in naught to seek oneself, nor to look to one's own merit. What great matter is it if thou be cheerful of heart and devout when favor cometh to thee? That is an hour wherein all rejoice. Pleasantly enough doth he ride, whom the grace of God carrieth. And what marvel if he feeleth no burden, who is carried by the Almighty, and is led onwards by the guide from on high? We are willing to accept anything for comfort, and it is difficult for a man to be freed from himself. The holy martyr Lawrence overcame the love of the world and even his priestly master because he despised everything in the world which seemed to be pleasant. And for the love of Christ he calmly suffered even God's chief priest, Sixtus, whom he dearly loved, to be taken from him. Thus, by the love of the Creator, he overcame the love of man, and instead of human comfort, he chose rather God's good pleasure. So also learn thou to resign any near and beloved friend for the love of God. Nor take it amiss when thou hast been deserted by a friend, knowing that we must all be parted from one another at last. Mightily and long must a man strive within himself before he learn altogether to overcome himself, and to draw his whole affection towards God. When a man resteth upon himself, he easily slippeth away unto human comforts. But a true lover of Christ and a diligent seeker after virtue falleth not back upon those comforts, nor seeketh such sweetness as may be tasted and handled, but desireth rather hard exercises, and to undertake severe labors for Christ. When therefore spiritual comfort is given by God, receive it with giving of thanks, and know that it is the gift of God, not thy desert. Be not lifted up, rejoice not overmuch, nor foolishly presume, but rather be more humble for the gift, more wary and more careful in all thy doing. For that hour will pass away, and temptation will follow. When comfort is taken from thee, do not straightway despair, but wait for the heavenly visitation with humility and patience. For God is able to give thee back greater favor and consolation. This is not new nor strange to those who have made trial of the way of God. For with the great saints and the ancient prophets there was often this manner of change. Wherefore one said when the favor of God was present with him, I said in my prosperity, I shall never be moved. Psalm 30, verse 6. But he goeth on to say what he felt within himself when the favor departed. Thou didst turn thy face from me, and I was troubled. In spite whereof he in no wise despaireth, but the more instantly entreateth God, and saith, Unto thee, O Lord, will I cry, and will pray unto my God. And then he receiveth the fruit of his prayer, and testifieth how he hath been heard, saying, The Lord heard me, and had mercy upon me. The Lord was my helper. But wherein thou hast turned my heaviness into joy, thou hast put off my sackcloth, and girded me with gladness. If it was thus with the great saints, we who are poor and needy ought not to despair if we are sometimes in the warmth, and sometimes in the cold. For the Spirit cometh and goeth according to the good pleasure of his will. Wherefore holy Job saith, Thou dost visit him in the morning, and suddenly thou dost prove him. Job chapter 7, verse 18. Whereupon then can I hope, or wherein may I trust, save only in the great mercy of God, and the hope of heavenly grace? For whether good men are with me, godly brethren, or faithful friends, whether holy books or beautiful discourses, whether sweet hymns and songs, all these help but little, and have but little savor when I am deserted by God's favor and left to mine own poverty. There is no better remedy than patience and denial of self, and an abiding in the will of God. I have never found any man so religious and godly, but that he felt sometimes a withdrawal of the divine favor and lack of fervor. No saint was ever so filled with rapture, so enlightened, but that sooner or later he was tempted. For he is not worthy of the great vision of God, who for God's sake hath not been exercised by some temptation. For temptation is wont to go before as a sign of the comfort which shall follow, and heavenly comfort is promised to those who are proved by temptation. As it is written, to him that overcometh I will give to eat the tree of life. Revelation chapter 2, verse 7. Divine comfort is given that a man may be stronger to bear adversities, and temptation followeth, lest he be lifted up because of the benefit. The devil sleepeth not. Thy flesh is not yet dead. Therefore cease thou not to make thyself ready unto the battle, for enemies stand on thy right hand and on thy left, and they are never at rest. Chapter 10. Of Gratitude for the Grace of God. Why seekest thou rest when thou art born to labor? Prepare thyself for patience more than for comforts, and for bearing the cross more than for joy. For who among the men of this world would not gladly receive consolation and spiritual joy, if he might always have it? For spiritual comforts exceed all the delights of the world and all the pleasures of the flesh. For all worldly delights are either empty or unclean, whilst spiritual delights alone are pleasant and honorable, the offspring of virtue, and poured forth by God into pure minds. But no man can always enjoy these divine comforts at his own will, because the season of temptation ceaseth not for long. Great is the difference between a visitation from above and false liberty of spirit and great confidence in self. God doeth well in giving us the grace of comfort, but man doeth ill in not immediately giving God thanks thereof, and thus the gifts of grace are not able to flow into us because we are ungrateful to the author of them, and return them not wholly to the fountain whence they flow. For grace ever becometh the portion of him who is grateful, and that is taken away from the proud, which is wont to be given to the humble. I desire no consolation which taketh away from me compunction. I love no contemplation which leadeth to pride. For all that is high is not holy, nor is everything that is sweet good. Every desire is not pure, nor is everything that is dear to us pleasing unto God. Willingly do I accept that grace whereby I am made humbler and more wary and more ready to renounce myself. He who is made learned by the gift of grace and taught wisdom by the stroke of the withdrawal thereof will not dare to claim any good thing for himself, but will rather confess that he is poor and needy. Give unto God the thing which is God's. Matthew chapter 22, verse 21. And ascribe to thyself that which is thine. That is, give thanks unto God for his grace, but for thyself alone confess thy fault, and that thy punishment is deserved for thy fault. Sit thou down always in the lowest room, and thou shalt be given the highest place. Luke chapter 14, verse 10. For the highest cannot be without the lowest. For the highest saints of God are least in their own sight, and the more glorious they are, so much the lowlier are they in themselves. Full of grace and heavenly glory, they are not desirous of vainglory. Resting on God and strong in his might, they cannot be lifted up in any wise. And they who ascribe unto God all the good which they have received, seek not glory one of another, but the glory which cometh from God only. And they desire that God shall be praised in himself and in all his saints above all things, and they are always striving for this very thing. Be thankful, therefore, for the least benefit, and thou shalt be worthy to receive greater. Let the least be unto thee even as the greatest, and let that which is of little account be unto thee as a special gift. If the majesty of the giver be considered, nothing that is given shall seem small and of no worth. For that is not a small thing which is given by the Most High God. Yea, though he gave punishment and stripes, we ought to be thankful, because he ever doth for our profit whatever he suffereth to come upon us. He who seeketh to retain the favor of God, let him be thankful for the favor which is given, and patient in respect of that which is taken away. Let him pray that it may return. Let him be wary and humble, that he lose it not. Chapter 11. Of the fewness of those who love the cross of Jesus. Jesus hath many lovers of his heavenly kingdom, but few bearers of his cross. He hath many seekers of comfort, but few of tribulation. He findeth many companions of his table, but few of his fasting. All desire to rejoice with him. Few are willing to undergo anything for his sake. Many follow Jesus that they may eat of his loaves, but few that they may drink of the cup of his passion. Many are astonished at his miracles. Few follow after the shame of his cross. Many love Jesus so long as no adversities happen to them. Many praise him and bless him so long as they receive any comforts from him. But if Jesus hide himself and withdraw from them a little while, they fall either into complaining or into too great dejection of mind. But they who love Jesus for Jesus' sake and not for any consolation of their own, bless him in all tribulation and anguish of heart as in the highest consolation. And if he should never give them consolation, nevertheless they would always praise him and always give him thanks. Oh, what power hath the pure love of Jesus, unmixed with any gain or love of self? Should not all they be called mercenary who are always seeking consolations? Do they not prove themselves lovers of self more than of Christ, who are always seeking their own gain and advantage? Where shall be found one who is willing to serve God altogether for naught? Rarely is anyone found so spiritual as to be stripped of all selfish thoughts. Or who shall find a man truly poor in spirit and free of all created things? His value is from afar, yea, from the ends of the earth. A man may give away all his goods, yet that is nothing. And if he do many deeds of penitence, yet that is a small thing. And though he understand all knowledge, yet that is afar off. And if he have great virtue and zealous devotion, yet much is lacking unto him. Yea, one thing which is the most necessary to him of all. What is it then? That having given up all things besides, he give up himself, and go forth from himself utterly, and retain nothing of self-love. And having done all things which he knoweth to be his duty to do, that he feel that he hath done nothing. Let him not reckon that much which might be much esteemed, but let him pronounce himself to be in truth an unprofitable servant, as the truth himself saith. When ye have done all things that are commanded you, say, we are unprofitable servants. Luke chapter 17, verse 10. Then may he be truly poor and naked in spirit, and be able to say with the prophet, as for me, I am poor and needy. Psalm 25, verse 16. Nevertheless, no man is richer than he. No man is stronger. No man freer. For he knoweth both how to give up himself and all things, and how to be lowly in his own eyes.